Hey, welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller. And man, I'm so excited. This guy, I have been a fan of Kenny Loggins for such a long time, and it's so great to have him on the program. Kenny, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Are you currently in the danger zone?
No, thank God. We're safely out of it for the next hour.
Good. Listen, I have been playing your songs on radio stations around this great country of ours for many, many years. And I do want to just thank you because finally, you guys, Loggins and Messina, were the ones that came out with an 8 or 9 minute song and gave us a chance to run to the restroom or do whatever we needed to do. So thank you.
Do whatever you need it to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you reference that in your book too. I'm listening to the audio book of your memoir, and it is fantastic. I'm about halfway through, and you talk about that in your book, which you are. How long did it take you to write that book? You're very candid.
It took the better part of a year.
Yeah, just you do such a great job, and you do a great job reading it as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that I had to learn how to do. That was on-the-job training.
I'll bet.
I had to do it. I figured out after about a chapter, I figured out that I needed an iPad with the whole book on the iPad, and then I used green markers, yellow markers, orange markers, all virtual, so that I knew where my emphasis had to be.
Right. Not the emphasis in the wrong syllable.
Exactly. Right. After 15, 20 minutes, you're on autopilot.
Yeah, it's so good though. I've just finished the part where you're talking about girls coming and knocking on your door at 3 a.m, hotel rooms, and then just how old that got. That had to get so old, Kenny.
It didn't get old quickly, but it did after a while. Not sleeping is a drag.
Right. Well, what a year for Kenny Loggins, huh? I mean, gosh, so you're on tour, Danger Zone, back in the Top Gun Maverick, and now you've released this memoir, Still All Right, which is so cool. And now you're teaming up with Jim Messina again for this great show at the Hollywood Bowl on July 15th and 16th. How does all of that feel?
It's whelming. and sometimes overwhelming.
The Hollywood Bowl gig. I mean, when you did "Sitting In," your first album with Jim Messina, that was 50 years ago. Can that even be true?
71.
Yeah. I just interviewed Jim Messina a couple of weeks ago, and it was I don't know. It was a couple of days before the release of your book, and I said, "Are we going to read a lot of trash about you, Jim, in Kenny's book?" And he said, "You might." But I haven't gotten to any Jim Messina big trash yet.
No, there's no big trash. I've sent him the chapters that were Loggins and Messina chapters before I sent it into the publisher. But I didn't say, "Oh, you can rewrite this." I just said, if you have issues with this, let me know, because we can talk about it.
As a courtesy.
It's a courtesy.
Yes.
But I did a little more with my ex-wives. I actually sent them the chapters and said, if there's anything in here you hate, let me know and I'll reword it.
Okay.
Last thing I need is to be back on the warpath with my ex-wife.
Right. No, nobody needs that. Well, it's funny when you're talking about Jim Messina, and when you guys first got together, what a magical situation that had become. And I didn't realize that when you first got together, that was supposed to be a Kenny Loggins individual project, right?
Right. Jimmy was signed to Clive Davis and Columbia Records as a producer. He'd quit Poco, wanted off the road, and wanted to stay home and make records. And he was very good at that. And I was looking for a producer, so I auditioned ostensibly originally as an artist looking for a producer. And we started into that idea just by making some demos of my material that he would then send to Clive Davis, and Clive would go yes or no. And then in the process of making up arrangements, we did an arrangement on one of his tunes called Peace of Mind, which I sang on the Sittin' In album. It was the last time that Kenny Loggins would sing a Jimmy Messina song, because from that point on, were becoming a duo. And then with the success, the initial meteoric success of Loggins and
Right.
Messina, Clive said, "Okay, I'm not promoting this record unless I can get a promise of 6 albums from an official duo." And so we went, "Yeah, okay, we're having fun. Let's keep going."
Well, and then it got a little rocky. I mean, you're 21 years old. You're 21 years old. You're brand new to everything, right? I mean, you're out of high school. You're writing songs, and then all of a sudden, like you talked about, it's this meteoric rise. And Kenny, Loggins and Messina are everywhere, and then came the business part of it, and it sounded like you kind of got taken care of by not only by Clive Davis but by Jim.
Well, are you being? How are you using the term "taken care of"?
Well, taking advantage of, I guess I meant to say.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to make sure which
Yeah.
way you were using
Yeah.
it. 'Cause
Very naive.
you can use it both ways, really, because on many levels I was being taken care of. Jimmy was definitely my mentor, but Jimmy had an opportunity to renegotiate his artist deal now, being out of his Poco deal, with a successful band. I mean, how often do you
Right.
get to be in the catbird seat like
Right.
that?
Right.
Where we're selling buckets of, boatloads of records,
Right.
and he's going back to Clive and saying, "Well, if you want Loggins and Messina, here's what you got to do."
Right.
And he's got one of the toughest lawyers in LA working with him. The problem was that the inequality of Loggins and Messina was really putting a nail in the coffin, because what was supposed to happen in the perfect world was that my lawyer would then go, "Okay, Kenny's not going to record until you make their deals equitable." But they actually encouraged they being Columbia Records, actually encouraged the inequity of the deals by telling him and his lawyer, "You cannot tell Kenny Loggins what we gave you." So right there, it sows the seeds of distrust.
Yeah. It really.
And it's the beginning of the end. And you would think a record company would want, even though they didn't get the perfect deal that they would have wanted had he not been in that position, you still want the band to stay together. You to negotiate a deal that creates inequality, and then pit them against each other is not going to keep that band together.
Yeah. And
I just want to be clear, that's not why I left.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, and obviously you guys. I mean, you're getting ready to perform again at the Hollywood Bowl, so everything is a lot better now, obviously. And the story of you guys, of you, Kenny, filling in for the Electric Prunes. That was so great, because I think it's easy for people to think about your musical journey and say that guy had it made. I mean, he hit song after hit song, and he goes in there and he does it, and they take care. But I mean, it was a rocky start, especially with the Electric Prunes, right?
Yeah, that was a questionable choice. I was in second year City College, and I got a call from Jeremy Stewart, who was a music writer and arranger in Hollywood. And he said, "I've been asked to be the new MD for the Electric Prunes, and would you like to be involved?" And I said, "Well, do I have to play their songs?" And he said, "No, we don't have to play their songs. We can reinvent the music of that band." I said, "Well, let's give it a try." So I joined over the phone from the quad at City College, Pasadena. And then next thing I know, we're on the road. And it was not all it's cracked up to be.
People showing up to see the Electric Prunes.
They're showing up to see the Electric Prunes. I Had Too Much to Dream last night to Get Me to the World on Time, Mass in F minor. We had nuns coming to the show. But I don't know how that went over, but I think they left early too.
Yeah.
And I'm in the middle of the show. Jeremy decides, well, Kenny's stuff always works. Kenny, you go out there alone and do 3 songs alone in the middle of the show.
Right.
So I got to watch the people leave. I played Danny's song and House of Pooh Corner and things that would later on become, important songs in my career.
Right.
Not worth the powder to blow them up.
Oh, man. We're talking to Kenny Loggins here in the National Defense. How surprised were you, or maybe not surprised at all, when Danger Zone came out in the Top Gun Maverick about your streaming numbers? They exploded.
No, totally surprised. I mean, I expected some reaction, but I figured that because it's a new movie with new music, the new music would come in and take over. But the legacy continues because,
Right.
as Tom said to me, it wouldn't be Top Gun without Danger Zone, and it really, the two are inextricable now. They're so connected that one conjures the other,
You know,
which I love.
absolutely. Well, I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it went through the roof, and just to have Tom come and say that to you, and how important that was, that had to be a big moment. But I mean, you've had plenty of big moments. I mean, you know, you guys invented a genre. You invented a genre, but you also encouraged a lot of guys with long hair and a guitar to go to their girlfriend's house and try to sing songs like that.
Yeah.
Kind
Well,
of
a couple of genres right there.
Yeah, right. But you've kind of constantly been reinventing yourself too, right?
That's, I always called it a moving target because I couldn't hold still. I think the problem was that I had two big brothers, and they liked different kinds of music, and I loved them both, and I loved the music they were turning me on to. So I could do the Tim Hardin countrified folky thing, which I loved,
Right.
that was sort of from Dylan on through. Uh, but then I also, my big brother Danny was turning me on to R&B and early rock and roll, everything from Chuck Berry and Little Richard on through, even later on when the Beach Boys showed up. That was a
Sure.
big thing for Danny and all those harmonies that influenced the intro to Whenever I Call You Friend.
Oh, wow.
So the music that comes through shows up sooner or later.
Well, I mentioned that I've been fired from a lot of radio stations, not for playing your music, but
Thank you
in the
for
middle of
clarifying.
playing your music. And so now I host this show called The National Defense, which is dedicated to our armed forces around the world and to all the veterans and their families. And I'm sure that you've had the chance to entertain just about everywhere, right?
Well, my career was not as worldwide as it could have been. Because Loggins and Messina took off so fast that the manager saw that the money was going to be made in the States. And that if we were to go outside, like to Europe or whatever,
Sure.
you have to start over.
Hmm.
And you're not going to make the kind of money that you can bring your band with you. So you
Right.
have to start over with a reduced group. And they just felt like, that'll wait. Let's wait on that and just keep exploiting the United States
Right,
for whatever
right.
money we
Yeah.
make. And here we are, 22 years old. I got nobody to spend it on.
Right. Right.
It's like, all of a sudden, all this money's coming in. What are you going to do with it? And it just made sense. And my business manager said, take your time moving up, in the expense world,
Right.
because it's really hard to move back down.
But
So let's wait and see if this money's going to last.
But you did buy that BMW.
You had to do that.
And I love the way you went about it, as you talk about it in your book. You went to a NASCAR driver. Is that right?
Right? He came to a show, and he was a buddy of a friend of mine from college, and we hung out. We just started hanging out, and then about an hour worth of drinking. And I said, "Well, if you could have any street car, what would you have?" And he said, "BMW 3-liter coupe," which was the epitome of
Sure.
fine
Oh, yeah.
German craftsmanship. And so I just picked up the phone and called my business manager, left a message. It was probably 2 a.m. a drunken message.
A drunken Kenny Loggins on the phone.
They're acting. Find me a BMW 3-liter coupe. And so she did. She called the next day and she said, "I found one, and it's in Arizona,
Oh, wow.
and they don't deliver."
And you do not have that car today.
Unfortunately, no. But a friend of mine found it.
Really?
Yeah, they found it. It was kind of rebuilt.
Right.
The first thing that car did when I sold it to my agent was he was driving down the freeway and the sunroof popped off. And I was like, "Oh, I got out from under that one quick enough."
Right.
But,
Oh, that's so
but
good.
it's all been rebuilt, and it has my credentials on it.
Well, Kenny, we do with our audience, we do a regular feature called "Got Your Six," and 6 rapid fire questions. So I'm ready for "Got Your Six" for Kenny Loggins. Are you ready?
Thanks for warning me.
Yeah. No, they're easy. So after you did
Okay.
I'm All Right for Caddyshack, how many stuffed gophers did you get from around the world?
About 1,000.
Did you really? Tell us one thing about Jim Messina that nobody else knows.
The first thing I thought of, I don't dare say out loud. Oh my God. Uh, we're 1 month apart. Well, that's nobody knows. Well, that's probably information everybody has.
What?
We were born only 1 month apart.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Danger Zone is, of course, synonymous with Top Gun. What is the most dangerous thing you've ever done?
Well, I'm nowhere up there with you guys, that's for sure. It would be wood carving.
Would well, okay. I mean, there's some danger to that.
The knife slipped
Right.
and cut into my hand, cut the nerve sheath, and I haven't been able to play the guitar anywhere near where I could when I was,
Oh,
what was that, 27?
Well, now you are responsible for a lot of tears through your music. When is the last time you cried?
Probably yesterday.
Really?
The older I get, the softer.
Oh,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm just
Right.
an old softy.
I can't. I can't watch a toilet paper commercial.
God,
I can't make
what
it
does
through.
dog food commercials make me cry?
Right.
Like, I don't know. I don't know exactly why. I think it's partly a reminiscing kind of thing
Right.
about things that happened. I have a chapter in the book about saving Darla's life. You remember the
Yeah.
girl who, when I broke up with her, she went out on the beach and tried to commit suicide.
Right.
And that's a very difficult story for me to tell without feeling the tears behind the intensity of that loss. Well, she didn't die, but I mean that
Yeah,
relationship.
that experience. Well, that's what I love about your book too. Is it's a lot of reminiscing for me. Growing up in that era and hearing those stories and just kind of craving those simpler times.
Yeah. I think that's probably the norm for every generation.
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
Well,
my dad loved big band music.
oh
Frank
yeah,
Sinatra,
yeah.
Bing Crosby, and he said, "Well, what are you guys going to sing when you get older? You don't have the music we had." It's like,
Right,
well,
right.
maybe I'll write some of that.
Yeah, but Kenny Loggins' music you have in every single generation, so they can't say that about. You talk a lot about smoking the ganja in your book. What is your favorite kind of weed? Is it sativa or indica?
Depends on what I'm doing it for.
Ah, right, exactly. That's exactly right.
Sativa is for a fun time, and indica is for sleep.
Nighty night.
Yep.
Right. You won a Daytime Emmy Award, 2 Grammy Awards, nominated for an Academy Award, a Tony Award, and a Golden Globe. What award would you give yourself as a father?
Ooh. It'd have to be somewhat nonconformist.
Yeah, I
Because
like that.
My parenting is not father knows best.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could tell you a story, and there would definitely be some blowback from it. But when my oldest daughter was at Wesleyan, which is a fantastic college, known for guest lecturers
Right.
and incredible teachers, and she was taking a very light class load. And I told her, I'll put it in a nutshell because I know time is an issue, but I told her that I'd gone to a party where they were passing out LSD from Osley himself. And because I was already high, I figured I'd just put it in my shirt and wait for another appropriate time. Well, it came around to where, a couple hours later, the guy from San Francisco who'd brought the LSD down said, "Dude, what are you on?" He said, Are you a narc? I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm totally blowing everybody's mind right now because they're on some level that I have no clue about.
Right. Right.
So I got up to leave and everybody applauded. So I told my daughter, the moral of that story is when you go to the party, take the acid. So that's not your normal parental advice.
That should be on a pillow or a T-shirt somewhere. I mean, that slogan. I love. But I love that, Kenny, because it's like my kids. I've got 2 daughters, and one is an artist and one's a musician, and because their dad never had a real job, that's kind of my parenting approach as well. I love that. because they're living their own lives and their own passions, right?
Right. My primary thing, which you probably saw in the book, is follow the fun.
Yeah,
It's
exactly,
a version of follow your
exactly.
heart. Yeah.
Um, and the thing that I can't understand, and maybe you've been asked this a million times, "Celebrate Me Home." Is it a holiday song? Is it an all year round song? What is it? It's one of my favorite songs of all time.
Thank you. It's an all year round song, but it has been adopted as a holiday song because of the opening line, "Home for the Holidays." I was finishing the song. I'd already written it somewhat with Bob James, and we were in New York about to start recording, and I played it for Phil Ramone, and Phil said, "Dude, that's." I said, "Celebrate Me Home." That's like a work lyric, like "Scrambled Eggs" was the
Right,
title of
right.
"Yesterday" for McCartney. I said, "I'll write something that makes more sense." He said, "No, that makes total sense, man. I want you to go up into my office and finish the song now. It's about what you're saying." So it was about December 10th or something, and I really wanted to go home for Christmas. So I wrote the opening line, "Home for the Holidays," and that's what took me into the "Celebrate Me Home"
What a great song. Well,
chorus.
I got to be honest with you about something. If you'll just indulge me. So we're based in Kansas City, Missouri, and I don't know how much you know about the Kansas City Chiefs, but we have a sensational quarterback here by the name of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So we put together a song, a little video, based on
Celebrate Mahomes.
Celebrate Mahomes.
Mahomes is going to keep it. Mahomes easily picks up the first down.
Mahomes for the holidays. I believed I've seen each and every play. Come on and throw some touchdowns. We have got the MVP on the way. It's time I found myself totally surrounded in Chiefs Kingdom with all my friends. So please celebrate Mahomes. This is a year for police. Celebrate Mahomes. Something to cheer for, time that I'll always remember. On our way to the Super Bowl when we were winning on our own, and we can thank Mahomes.
Now, please don't sue us. That was so fun. Kenny, thank you
Yeah.
so much for the time. Thank you for the great music over the years, and have a great time with Jim at the Hollywood Bowl, man. That's going to be a fantastic couple of nights.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll be right back here on the National Defense.